Hey everyone, this is Jamie with leto.x.crossstitch, and this is my YouTube channel featuring my love for the hobby of cross stitch. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you so much for being here. Or if you've already seen one of my previous videos, I really appreciate you coming back. But I'm a fairly new floss tuber, a somewhat new cross stitcher, and I've really been enjoying taking a deep dive into cross stitch, learning all of the things, discovering all the amazing designers, and now, as of May 1st, also designing my own patterns, or releasing my patterns onto the world for people to purchase. So the first thing I thought I would do in this floss tube is just really quickly show you the first 3 patterns that I have available in my Etsy shop, in my Ko-Fi shop, so you can get a good look at what those look like. I decided to make a somewhat like tiny collection in that I created 3 different patterns and I used the same flosses for each. And I was very heavily influenced by the colors that I chose to put into my logo. I'm a graphic designer, although I'm not like a full-fledged graphic designer. I don't have a graphic designer job at the moment, but I was doing a bit of light graphic design at my last job. And so I really love designing. I really love playing around with different elements and color, especially color. I love color, anything color. So that's really what kicked me off into deciding what colors I was going to use. So the first pattern that I ever created was what I call my Ancestral Roses pattern. And so this is a fully finished object that I have put in an IKEA frame that came with a mat, and it is this rose pattern that I designed based off of, if you can see behind me, the quilt or bed cover that my great grandmother hand-stitched, hand-embroidered back in the day. I learned, if you've seen my very first floss tube, I talk a little bit more about it, but it's kind of always in the background. I really love that I have this piece in my home and it's always visible in my videos. But it was something that my grandmother drew and then my great-grandmother stitched, and so they worked on it collaboratively together, so it has a special place in my heart, and I thought that my very first pattern could somehow reference that. So I went with a kind of circular rose shape, floral. Her flowers, I think, are probably meant to be roses too, but like roses that are fully open, so it doesn't look like a traditional rose that you would imagine in your head as soon as you hear the word rose. So mine are a little bit reminiscent of that. And then I decided to play around again with my logo. So in the logo, in the leto.x logo, there's 3 triangles behind the words that say leto.x, and so I added those 3 triangles here to the back, and I played a little bit with some tone-on-tone colors just to give them a little bit more visual impact, and so that it wouldn't be as, probably boring to stitch, just a solid swash of color. And then as a nod to my scrapbooking background, I did something that I would probably have done if I had been making this with paper, and I tried to make it seem somewhat like a torn paper finish with these here, with another pattern peeking out behind them. So it loosely translates, it's not exact, but I have this pattern that features kind of a rosebud behind here, and I really love how this turned out. It's pretty small, it's not huge, but it is like a full coverage piece, so it does take a little bit of time to stitch this guy up. I actually designed this last year, probably early summer, maybe even around sometime this year, the same time as it is now, which it's the beginning of May, the first week of May. And I just didn't know when it was a good time to release patterns, because as soon as I kind of finished doing this, I heard about Needlework Marketplace, and I was like, well, I can't, throw out new patterns that no one's ever, from a designer no one's ever heard of before. I don't know, I just didn't know when would be a good time to launch. So I just kind of picked May 1st arbitrarily somewhat, but May 1st was actually my grandmother's birthday, different side of the family. My mom's birthday. She was born May 1st. She's no longer with us, but she would have been 92. And it also is my parents' wedding anniversary. And unfortunately, my dad is no longer with us, but they were married up until his death. And so if they had continued to remain married, they would have hit their 44th wedding anniversary this year. So May 1st is like a really auspicious, I guess, day for my family. So I thought it'd be the perfect day to kind of launch leto.x, to put my patterns out into the world, and to show them to you all. So I did kind of go a little bit deeper into like a little bit of my inspiration behind this Ancestral Roses piece, but these I'm just going to show you really quickly, and maybe I'll do separate videos for them as well. But another pattern that I designed is this guy. It says besos, which is the Spanish word for kisses. And if you'll notice along the border, there's bunches of X's and O's, which again is just on theme, going along with the theme of hugs and kisses. And I finished this in a tiny little frame that I randomly got this from Amazon, and it fit perfectly. It fit this perfectly. I did not plan for these two to go together, but it ended up fitting really perfectly, and I really like that it matched in a way. And so again, I used the same color palette, the colors that are visible in the leto.x logo, for picking the colors in this guy. And then the last one I did was is what I'm calling the SATX blocks pattern, and it is a smallish pattern that I did on 14 count Aida. Actually, all of these are on 14 count Aida, because back then when I was designing these in mind, I was like, okay, well, everything needs to be put on 14 count Aida because that's what the people want. Or that's what they want to see. And I guess more beginners is what I was thinking of, because these aren't very difficult patterns at all. So 14 count white Aida for all of these, and which is great. It's a great place to start. And so I opted for that. Now I think I feel that I can stitch them on any new patterns that I design going forward. I don't feel like I absolutely have to put them on 14 count white Aida, but for this beginner designer, for potentially beginner stitchers, I thought it was a good place to start. And so I wanted to feature my hometown, which is San Antonio, Texas. I love my hometown. I love being from here. I've lived other places in the world, and there's obviously nothing quite like home, and this city is bursting with my culture and my heritage, and my family has actually been here for generations and generations and generations. We are, certain parts of my family were here even before this was part of the United States, when it was still Mexico. Certain parts of my family also have indigenous roots. Like, we are aware that my 3 times great grandmother spoke whatever native indigenous language. She had to learn Spanish when the Spanish came to this part of the world. So we've been here for a very long time, and what do they say, like, we didn't cross the border crossed us. For certain parts of my family, not everyone. But again, I just really love San Antonio. I have found it to be a wealth of inspiration. There's a lot of rich, vibrant culture here. There's a lot of beautiful color, always, everywhere. And so I wanted to play with that a little bit, and then also highlight some of our local attractions. So of course, we're gonna have the Alamo, because that's kind of, if you're like traveling to the far reaches of the planet, which for me, being from Texas, is kind of like Asia, pretty far away. People in Asia don't really know San Antonio. Even people in Europe don't really know San Antonio. If you say Texas, more often than not, people are going to think of Dallas 1 because of the old TV show. Maybe Houston because of the huge oil and gas influence that comes from there. Maybe Austin now because of entertainment, but that's kind of only recently, in the past 10 years. And then very few people know about San Antonio. But here in the United States, people tend to know of San Antonio, or the one thing that they do know about San Antonio is that we have the Alamo here, the Battle of the Alamo occurred here. So of course, when you're thinking about San Antonio, you think of the Alamo, so I had to make sure to put that. We also have a tower here that was built for the World's Fair a very long time ago. When they were still doing World's Fairs. I don't know if they still do World's Fairs. But the Tower of Americas is here and was built for that purpose. I added the Torch of Friendship, which is a sculpture that San Antonio received as a gift from Mexico. It's this beautiful, beautiful sculpture that's downtown, very modern, and it's I was about to say sculptural, because it's a sculpture, but it has a lot of movement and shape, and depending on the angle that you're looking at it, you see different, it looks different. 360 degrees, it looks different from whatever angle you're looking at it from. So I added that, and then because San Antonio also is home to several other missions, not just the Alamo, I added Mission San Jose here at the bottom, just to add another landmark, another historical landmark as well. So I finished this to make it look a little bit like a Polaroid picture, because I really just love that look, and I love it in cross stitch too, because it's like bringing together something that's like considered more modern, even though at this point it's been around, Polaroids have been around for a really long time, but it's modern, meeting cross stitch, which is very old, very I don't know if I can say ancient, but has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and I like seeing these two meet and mix. So I finished it just on some chipboard, and then I backed it on another piece of fabric wrapped chipboard, and it sits on my shelf, and I just really love it. And I'm so excited to have these three that I've done, and they're out in the world and available to purchase, and I will absolutely link all three of them up. Well, I will link them up in the description on YouTube, and it'll be a link to my Etsy shop and to my Ko-Fi shop. So, to start, as a brand new baby designer, I did not want to have people pay for like the very first two patterns that I'd ever created, not knowing anything about patterns and just kind of playing and trying to figure it out. So Ancestral Roses and Besos are both free in my Ko-Fi shop. So if you want to just download them, please feel free to do that. I do, the SATX blocks though is a paid pattern. On Ko-Fi and on Etsy. So I decided that I wanted to cross promote and cross sell on Etsy as well. Just as a way for people to, it's a great place if you're a new designer and people are just like trying to find cross stitch designs and they're putting in keywords and the words cross stitch, and it's a good way for people to find your patterns for the first time if they and be introduced to your patterns if they aren't familiar with cross stitch just in general. So I wanted to post them there as well. But there's a fee associated obviously with posting on Etsy. So there is a small fee for Ancestral Roses and Exo Besos on Etsy, but it's really just to cover those fees. I'm not profiting from them. It's just another platform for me to be able to get some exposure. But if you want them for free, please grab them from the Ko-Fi shop. It does not matter to me where you get them from. I even have in the Etsy listings, go to my Ko-Fi shop if you want this pattern for free. But some people might just like to pay directly or get all of their patterns or have all their patterns collected for them in the Etsy app or their Etsy account. So I made them available there as well. So that was the big huge announcement that I had at the top of the video. And now I'm going to go into just your standard Flosstube. I really want to just go through what I was able to accomplish in April, and then talk a little bit about my plans for the summer. And for me, the summer is just kind of May and June really, because starting in July and then definitely in August, I start edging toward Christmas in July and fall. fall is my absolute favorite thing to stitch. I have so many patterns that are fall inspired, that are Halloween related, and I want to give myself plenty of time to stitch those. Because I am a seasonal stitcher, I want to have as much time as possible stitching those, so I kind of start creeping into August, even though August is technically still the summer. I'm sorry if you can hear Fred in the background crying. I don't know why he's crying, but he is out there crying, and hopefully you can't hear him. Anyway, so yes, transitioning over into the next part of my video, which is me going through the 2 fully finished objects that I have. Okay, let's get started with the fully finished objects that I was able to accomplish in April, and then also I think one of these I did at the very, very end of March, but I didn't show it in the last Flosstube I did, and that is this guy. It is called the Moth and Mushroom. It's by Little Dove Designs, which is out of the UK, I believe. And I stitched this on 18 count. I believe this is 18 count. It's called Bayou Bullfrog, and it's from Under the Sea Stitches, which is my LNS, and it's kind of like the perfect neutral greenish color. I don't know, it's almost maybe also like a khaki color, a little bit khaki colored, but like a green khaki, I should say. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful. This was the first time walking into Under the Sea Fabrics was amazing, getting to see that for the first time, of course. But it was also where I discovered opalescent fabric, which I didn't even know was a thing. So I came out of there with 2 fat quarters and 1 fat half of fabric, because I love it so much. And I had, I can't remember which one I had the most of. It may be Bayou Bullfrog. But I love Bayou Bullfrog. Like, I kind of want to buy another half yard of it because it's just such a great, like, neutral that isn't a white or a tan or a cream or like an off color or a gray or, yeah, like a brownish color. But I just really love how it came together, and I struggled with this when I finished this one last summer, and I didn't know how I wanted to finish it. Like, I knew I was probably just going to put it in a hoop or something, or maybe try to find a frame, but I just ended up getting this little like faux wood plasticky thing from I think 1-2-3 Stitch, and stuck it in there, and voila, it's ready to be put up on my wall. And I'm so happy that this is fully finished because it was very close to being completely fully finished. I just was dragging my heels on it. And then the second thing that I fully finished was this pattern from Frosted Pumpkin Designs. I don't know what the last part of it is, but it's called Chickie's Easter Wish, and it's this adorable little chick, an Easter chick, and he has little bunny ears because he wants to be a bunny, I think is his Easter wish. And then it features 2 little bunnies, a basket at the bottom, some eggs, and also some cute little carrots. And I purchased this frame. It was a wood frame. I don't even know where I got it from, but it's like the standard wood frame I think you can get most places. And I painted it this green. This green is really, really bright, so I do need to tone it down some. But this is something that'll be able to be displayed next Easter or sometime. Next Easter season, and so I will worry about toning it down then. But it is finished technically because it's in a frame. It's a frame that's been painted. It's one of these, yeah, that you just kind of stick the whole hoop in there. I probably should stitch this so that it's not like all exposed on the back, but it will be done maybe one of these days. And yeah, this is my second fully finished object. project that I was able to complete, and this one I did think I completed in May. I think the other one's at the end of March. This guy was done in May. So that was 2 fully finished objects, FFOs, that I managed to scrape together, and this is a big accomplishment for me because I'm so bad at finishing. Unless it's like one of my own patterns like these, I don't finish much, and so I would really love to put some more focus into finishing all of these beautiful things that I've been stitching. So hopefully you'll join me on the journey for that. For now, 2 is pretty good, and so I will next move on to what I was able to complete, all the patterns that I completed but have not been fully finished. So in terms of finished patterns, those that I have stitched, completed the stitching on, but have not put into frames or made them into their final form, I got really inspired to finally purchase this little pattern. Oh goodness, let me check my planner here because I can't recall off the top of my head who designed this because I was not very familiar with them. Okay, this pattern is called Easter Bunnies by Historical Sampler Co. And it features 2 little bunnies with this like cute little like heart bag between them. And I loved it as soon as I saw it because I thought it would be really cute for my mom because her and her sisters are obsessed with bunnies. All 3 of them really love bunnies. They have lots of bunny decor, so they really love Easter. And sometimes some of them have bunny stuff up all year round. But anyway, I saw it, I thought of them, and it had been on my mind. And I don't know, coming around to the spring season, I remembered that pattern that I had taken a screenshot of and saved, and so I went back to it and purchased the pattern again from Historical Sampler Co. and I stitched it up. So this is on a 20 count. It's called Rustico Oatmeal. I think it's just a Zweigart, which it surprised me. I stitched this and then I went back and looked at the little tag to see that it was 20 count, and I don't know if it's because I don't know what it means when it says rustico or why it's called Rustico Oatmeal, but it was a much looser weave than a 20 count typically is because I was able to use 2 strands on this, which normally I would only be using 1 strand on a 20 count, but 2 strand worked just perfectly for this. I did amend the pattern, which I have put an image on the screen, so you should have been able to see what it looked like originally. It was originally just with 2 bunnies, and then I think it said like Happy Easter at the top and the bottom, and I just eliminated that because I can see my mom just having this up all year round and it not necessarily being like solely an Easter project, Easter pattern to display. And then the couple changes that I made beside extending it to include a 3rd bunny was I added my mom and her sister's initials down below, so it would be more personal to her and to them. And I think that's it. I think I took out 1 line of the heart to make it look much more like a traditional heart. I think the pattern had it like kind of a longer heart, and I just liked it to be a little bit smaller. So that is how I ended up stitching it, and I really love how it came together. It was a really quick stitch. It didn't take me more than a few days to get this all together, even adding in the extra bunny. And I posed to my mother, if theoretically she were to receive a pattern or project from me, would she want it in a frame or potentially as a pillow? And she said in theory she would prefer a pillow. So that's what this is going to be made into, just a little pillow for her for Mother's Day. So I'm going to be shortly FFOing this one to give it to her in time for Mama's Day, and I'm so excited that I went back and did this because I had that screenshot snapshot in my phone for like 9 or 10 months. And I remembered it, and I remembered always thinking that it would be really cute for mom. And so thus started me purchasing all of these patterns that I'm like, oh, mom, I like this, mom, I like that. One, it's because I like the pattern and I want to be able to do it, but I'm not sure necessarily that I want to keep it in my home, but I'm like, this would be great for mom. So there's like another project that I'm working on that's for her. I have purchased other patterns that I already know where I have in mind for her. And so at a certain point I had to just kind of stop and be like, okay, maybe you should keep stitching for yourself for a little bit, because I'm like starting all of these gift projects, and it just seemed like it was a lot. A lot of it was like stitching for other people, which is wonderful and beautiful, and I love it, and it's fun. But sometimes you do just want to stitch for yourself as well. So this was one of the one of the finished completed patterns that I did in the month of April. So then the next pattern that I worked on in April was this beautiful pattern. It is called The Seeds, and it's from, I struggle to say this name, I'm so sorry, I struggle all the time to say it, but I think it's Quaternion Creations. It's an Etsy shop that I purchased this pattern from. I just absolutely loved these beautiful blooms / women, and then the quote, and I love the mixing of motif and text. It really sings to my scrapbooker's heart, because all of these years as I've been playing with pattern papers and photos, text is also really important in scrapbook pages, because you got to tell your story. You sometimes, if you are inclined to, put a title on the page, and so I love playing with typefaces or fonts and including them in projects. So I'm always really drawn to like strong words, strongly designed, very type focused patterns, not necessarily samplers, because I know samplers obviously have a lot of text, they have alphabets, but I don't know, something about the words, I'm always drawn to them, I'm always interested in seeing them. So I really loved this guy from Quaternion Creations, The Seeds. And I did a little bit of changes to this one. So one change I made is that I added this like kind of purpley magenta color. The pattern called for you to repeat this beautiful bright red here as well, and I love reds and oranges, but purples are my favorite, well, after yellow. Purple's my second favorite color, and so I just really loved mixing it in with these beautiful oranges. And then I didn't follow what the colors were used for these guys too, I just kept kind of mixing it up. Also, I altered the pattern a bit in that there was another row of like decorative elements in between They Didn't Know We Were and Seeds. There was like another band that looked like this here, and then there was some sort of decorative icon or motif here, and I just eliminated it. I wanted to simplify it a little bit, and I did not want, mainly what I didn't want to do was I didn't want to break up the quote. I wanted it to read and flow as one, instead of being like split in two. And I was okay with these things being split in two, because this is one sentence and this is a second sentence, but it was really important for me for all of that to flow just as it was. And so I stitched this on that same 20 count, the other part of the 20 count rustico oatmeal, and again I used 2 strands on this, so it's not as tight a weave, because I was able to make that happen. And I love how it turned out. And so I think what my plan is that I will put this on some chipboard, and then I think what I will do is mount the chipboard onto a piece of fabric that will be framed. And let me grab an example of how I've done that in the past. Okay. So there's this guy, he lives on my desk. His is Halloween Party from Nathmaloo, And again, it is on one of my favorite neutral, Bullfrog from Under the Sea Fabrics, Opulescent. And it's this little guy that I stitched and I mounted onto some chipboard. And then I also mounted fabric on chipboard, put it in a frame, and adhered the two together. And so I think that's what I want to do for the seeds. So I think it'll be really fun to try to find a pretty floral, probably floral or color wash or something that will really make these colors pop, and then will just live in probably like an 8 by 10. I don't know, it may have to be a little bit bigger, so probably like 11 by 14. Because of the size of this guy, but it's not, I really love the size of how this came out at the end, having eliminated the couple rows of stitching. I just think it's a really pleasant size in the end, and I'm excited to find some fabric to mount this on, and then to stick them together and put them on the wall, or have it hang out on my desk like the other one is. And then the last pattern that I completed for the month of April was one of my own designs. I created this I use the Stitchery app because I really like doing it on my iPad, and I had just tiny little thumbnails that I try to recreate in pixel form. It is a learning curve trying to go from like pencil drawings, really quick sketches, thumbnails, things that aren't like fully fleshed out, into pixels. So that has been a bit of a learning curve, but I'm enjoying it so far. And I'm going to the Stitching Sirens Retreat, which is hosted by Under the Sea Fabrics here in San Antonio. They have their annual big retreat every June. I was able to go to one day of it last year, and so I signed up immediately in January to go again. So excited to be there. And the theme for the June retreat is red, white, and blooms. So using that as a prompt, I was like, oh, let me create something that I could, let me create a pattern that I can then give to people at the retreat. So I'm so excited to show you what I designed. And because it is somewhat patriotically inclined, the red, white, and blooms, I decided to make it somewhat patriotic, which is different for me. Like, this is the only patriotic pattern that I have done this year. Obviously, with the 250th year anniversary of the United States, or the 13 colonies, I should say, there's a lot of patriotic stuff out there, and I think so much of it is beautiful, and it's so celebratory, but it is a bit odd for me personally, having just everything be the state of the world essentially, and how things have been really hard in the United States for people who look like me, who resemble me or my family members, and the targeting and profiling that specifically ICE has been doing in these recent days and months. It makes it really hard to know that we live in the land of the free, but that does not mean that everyone here has that opportunity to live freely and not be suspect just based on the color of their skin. So that has been somewhat difficult for me this year, as it has been the 250th year anniversary of the United States, of the 13 colonies. I think lots of people are feeling the same way. I'm not going to speak for anyone other than myself, but it does seem like that there is that sentiment of like, yes, it's great to live in the United States, or yes, it's great to live in the United States, but not for everyone, or maybe not necessarily, it's not that great right now. Again, it is also difficult for me being a person of color and living between two cultures, so I grew up and was born and raised in Texas as an American. I'm a citizen, my parents were citizens, my grandparents are citizens, we've been here for a long time, like I mentioned earlier. The border crossed us, and straddling my Mexican heritage, and that also being a big part of who I am and how I was raised. And So not always, even as a child, not necessarily feeling totally American or totally Mexican, or, you know, being just straddled in between the two has always been something that's something that I've known and experienced in my life, and just trying to figure out and understand how that works. Anyway, I end up talking long-winded about this, but it is important for me to say that yes, I feel blessed to have been born and raised in the United States, but there are things and situations and policies that can be put in place to protect people who look like me, who also reside here in the United States, who some of them were absolutely born in the United States and are being detained and or held for whatever reason, but definitely not because they're here illegally. So let's get back to my pattern, which as I mentioned earlier, is based on the prompt red, white, and blooms. And so when I started thinking about, oh, I can do a pattern for stitching sirens, what would I want to do? What would it look like? How can I be patriotic? What could I do that would represent the patriotic part of things? And kind of the initial idea and I had in my head was to do a bow, and have the bow be like in the not in the shape of the flag, but utilizing the colors of the flag, the United States flag, and then also being representative of the US flag. So that is what I did. That's the very first thing that I designed and stitched, and I really love how the bow came out. It is my favorite part of this piece, and I struggled showing these to you. I'm gonna try to do something a little bit different in this video, potentially, and like film extra video with better coloring, because I know when I put these up closer to the camera so you guys can see the stitching, the color changes and it gets really dark and harder to see. So I may be talking about all this and you may be seeing something totally different. Hopefully I have figured that out. But the bow was a starting point for this one, and I really, really loved how it turned out. And then I was somewhat struggling with, okay, what do I put this bow on? Because I didn't want it to just be there hanging and floating out in space. Although I think it would be really cute as like a brooch that you could turn, like a piece you could turn into a brooch. That's a little too big to be earrings. I wish it was like a little bit smaller so that you could turn them into earrings, but I think it'd be like the perfect size for like a brooch or like a little decal that you could put onto your shirt. I love the bow. Bow's my favorite part. And after some cogitation, after some, you know, just continuous like walking away from the pattern to try to figure out what I can include as well as the bloom portion of things at the very top, I decided to go with the years. So 1776 was the start of was when the Declaration of Independence was signed, and so therefore the start of the United States. And then the year 2026 obviously was the year we're currently in, that we've hit, and is our 250th year anniversary. And I decided to stitch, I decided to chart those where 1776 is in a serif font, so like an older, more traditional font, and the 2026 is in like a more pixelated digital font, just to convey visually the difference in time, that time has passed. As you can absolutely tell, these two look different, they're not the same, and time has passed, and so I wanted to convey that visually as well. And then I wanted to add just a little bit of floral at the top to give it the bloom portion of the prompt. And so there's like a white little daisy-esque flower. I don't know, it's not a real flower, it's just something that I charted. I added some little blue blooms and then a couple strawberries because 4th of July, I don't know, strawberries, 4th of July, they kind of go hand in hand in my mind. So, and who doesn't love tiny little strawberries? So I added those as well. And I thought it was finished, and I really like how it looked. But for me, looking at the design, I was like, what about this design makes it mine? What part of what Jamie do I see in the pattern? And I didn't see a lot of me in the pattern. I love the pattern. I thought it was really pretty. but it didn't seem necessarily my typical style, and it didn't seem necessarily like I was present in the piece. So I just was browsing Pinterest. I have a whole Pinterest board full of just craft inspiration that I actually put together to use for scrapbooking, and it's all kinds of different like home decor, paint swatches, graphics, designed images, pretty like photos of pretty flowers just for the color schemes and stuff. It's like a whole mishmash of inspiration that I love, that I've curated. I spent a lot of time doing that back when Pinterest was super huge, and so I don't use it as much anymore, but I went back through it just to kind of look and see what inspiration I could draw from it. And I kept seeing, I saw that I had saved some like paint swatches, I guess, or like just like a sketchbook image of someone who like swatched a bunch of colors in a row. And I saw a few of those that I had pinned, and I thought about it, and I realized that could be a really great thing to add to this project to make it a little bit more me. And it's color, again, is a big part of my life, or a big part of my design work. In any type of project that I'm doing, whether it's cross stitch or scrapbooking or painting or whatever other craft based home decor, home decorating that I do. And so that felt like the bit of me that got infused into the pattern. And so I added this little block at the bottom that has it's a swatch of all the colors that I used in the overall pattern. And then I added some text down there, and it says Patriotic Palette to kind of just show all the colors. And I just like the words Patriotic Palette and the alliteration of that, and having it on here. And it's kind of quirky. It's a little different. I mean, this pattern could have been done here and you would never have missed anything, but this little bit is me. And I really love that I added it in, that I thought to add it in, that I found the inspiration to incorporate it in some way. And I just really love how this turned out. So I am planning to chart this and give it to people that I meet at the Stitching Sirens retreat in June. So if you're there, come find me. And otherwise, it will be coming to my Etsy shop and my Ko-Fi shop someday soon. Okay, one other thing that I forgot to add about this pattern is all the details. So I stitched this on 18 count fabric, Aida fabric from XJU Designs, which I have been trying to pronounce that as a word for forever until I saw another YouTube video where someone correctly, I believe, said that the name of the company is XJU Designs, not Ju, which is what how I was trying to pronounce it. But anyway, it is in the color Little Dove, 18 count. I used Aida for all of this, and there are only 8 colors in it. The 8th color being the black, where I add in the words down here and a few of these Smyrna crosses, I believe that's the type of stitch that they're called. But 18 count, Little Dove, XJU Designs, really quick and simple to do. And I like it on the gray. It was important for me to not stitch this on white because I wanted to be able to see the ribbon at the bottom. Okay, so now it's time to move on to whips. And the first whip I'll show you is my oldest whip. My goal this year is to put 500 stitches on it every single month. And I was able to accomplish that this month. I put about 600 stitches in here. So I'll just quickly show you. It's this guy. It is the Cats of El Gato Gomez from the designer Vivsters. It is on 18 count gridded Zweigart. It uses all of the called for DMC. And I think I added this bit in here since the last time that you saw this, but it is the biggest pattern that I have started working on to date. It is 52,000 stitches because it's full coverage, but it's beautiful and I love working on it and I will continue to work on it. I'm just showing it to you guys in the little bits and bursts that I get to add to it. I have no plans as to when I want this to be finished. I just want to make sure that I'm continuing to work on it because I love it and it's a really fun, easy stitch. If I want to just not have to do as much counting and not have to do as much color changing, this is the pattern that I turn to because you can spend a lot of time stitching just one color it being a simpler stitch. So that's what this guy looks like. Okay, so then another whip that I've been working on is my birthday start from 2025. This is the Moonlight. Yeah, sorry, I thought it was backwards for half a second. This is the Moonlight Sampler from the Blue Flower. It is stitched on 18 count Aida in the color Jazz from Under the Sea Fabrics. This is one of the fabric of the month that was released last year. I don't think it's available still, but you probably want to check the website Under the Sea Fabrics to see if it is. It is this beautiful, gorgeous blue. The model for this was stitched on kind of a taupey tan khaki color, and I don't know, I just wanted something moodier. So I'm using all of the called for flosses, which includes some DMC, some Classic Colorworks, some Weeks Dye Works. I think that's it. I think there's only 3 types of flosses in here. And I'm just continuing to add to the alpha down here. And then I stitched the little fox guy. He's so sweet. Since the last time I showed this to you all. It remains one of my favorite projects that I will ever have worked on. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this before my birthday. I don't know necessarily that's how birthday starts go. But in my mind at the time when I started this, I really wanted to be able to finish it within a year of my birthday. But we'll see. Maybe, maybe not. Another whip that I've been working on, although I hadn't picked it up since the first time I worked on it, but I purchased this kit on eBay. It's a DMC kit. It's from DMC, and it's a London bus. I love this guy. This is what it looks like. So you can see here, it is from like 2015, I think. Yeah, I always look. It's from 2015. There's a couple other London ones it looks like on here, but this was my favorite. I love the bus. Used to live in London. London has my heart. It's literally one of my favorite cities in the entire world. And I had started this earlier in the year as part of Whip Drag Race and stitch on it 500 stitches and then didn't pick it up until I picked it up the other day, and I'm continuing to work on the top half of the London bus. I really love this guy. It's I thought I was going to switch out the fabric so it wouldn't be 14 count, but I just went with the fabric that was provided in the kit. I'm using the floss that's provided in the kit. It's the only project that I'm working on from the paper copy. I don't love working with paper copies. I should have probably scanned it and put it into Markup RX, but we'll deal. And I really love how it's coming together. So this is literally just from 2 sittings that I have put in here. And I love that you can already start seeing that it's a bus. It's a big red bus and there's some blue bunting. And this is gonna be part of Whip Drag Race, which I will talk about in the plans portion of the video. But yeah, I'm really excited that I'm continuing to work on this one because I love it. And it's just one of these year-round projects that I feel like I could pick up at any point. Although those are the types of projects, right, where it's like if you don't plan to do it, you're kind of never going to do it. Just like any other thing in life. If it's easy, sometimes it's harder to plan. Anyway, yeah, I'm excited to do this one. And then I just love my little needle minder. I went on Etsy because I wanted to specifically find a London needle minder because I feel like I'm always going to be stitching London projects because, like I said, it's my favorite city in the world. I lived there for a time. I met my husband there, so it's very special to us. We'd had our honeymoon there. So haven't been back in a while, which makes me very, very sad because I used to work for the British government, and so that meant that I got to go at least once a year, if not multiple times a year. Spent a lot of time in Scotland, beautiful part of the world. But most of that time was spent on the North Sea in Aberdeen. So when I think of my time in the UK, my time in Scotland, I think about it being cold. Oh, Februaries. I used to go in Februaries to Scotland. I think about it being cold and windy, and just like my clothes being damp always. But I loved it. I would continue to do it if I still worked for that organization. I don't though, so yeah, that's just a little bit of my history there. So let's look at another whip. Okay, so this next whip is one that I worked on once earlier this year, again as part of Whip Drag Race, which again I will talk about here shortly. And then I've not looked or touched it again this year, and so I'm going to continue with it for sure. And it's going to be part of Whip Drag Race. Again, I'll talk about that here in a second. But it is Strawberry Mountain from leto.x.crossstitch, and it is on this 20 count Aida from Under the Sea Fabrics. And let me consult my planner here. It is on like the 20 count Under the Sea Fabrics in the color Heaven's Fury. I think one of the downsides, one thing that's really hard about Flosstube is trying to accurately convey the color of things. And I started this project, one, because at the January Bare Bones retreat, which is another retreat that Under the Sea does, that is bare bones. Like, it's not fancy, it's not like full of challenges and giveaways and stuff like that. It's really just an opportunity to gather and to stitch. And someone at the retreat brought in their finished Strawberry Mountain for the brag table, and I saw it in person there, and I was like, I have to stitch this. I want to stitch this. And originally I thought I was going to be stitching it on like a yellow, on an orange persimmon specifically, and from Fiber on a Whim, I believe. And then I thought, well, let me go walk over to the fabric wall that they bring over from Under the Sea Fabrics to see what I might find there. And I found this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Heaven's Fury. And I just loved the colors on top of it. And I'm gonna insert a video that hopefully shows the colors a little bit better, and all of the flosses that I have pulled for it. It's all of the called for colors. Jedex Stitch, Jessica is known for her gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous color patterns and color combos, colorful patterns, color combos. And I threw these on here. I don't really know how to do a floss toss. I've heard of it plenty of times. I've never actually watched a video to see how you do it. But anyway, I threw the flosses on top of it, and I just thought that they looked gorgeous. And so it's kind of like a tannish color, but there are pops of yellow and orange, and also a little bit of green in this fabric. And I just really, really, really loved it. This is the first project that I've ever worked on that is 20 count Aida. So I had to do just one strand, which is this a first. I've never done just one strand, and I liked it. So although like I said, I only stitched on this one time, so I've not continued to stitch on it for various reasons, but it's going to be part of Whip Drag Race, which I will talk again. But yeah, that's just my little start on Strawberry Mountain. I don't know why I kept calling it Strawberry Hill, and I wrote it in multiple places Strawberry Hill, and then other places Strawberry Mountain. I have no idea why I'm so confused about the name of that thing, but I don't know, maybe because I start thinking about Strawberry Fields, the Beatles song. Although why that would confuse me, I don't know, but yeah. So that is another work in progress, and I just wanted to show it to you so you could see kind of the start of it before I start really digging into it this season. have a couple of new starts. One new start slash plan for the future is I will be attending the Spring Mingle from Lindy Stitches. It's happening next weekend here in the month of May 2026, and it was the first online event that I ever attended last year, and I really loved it. Even though I didn't participate in all the things, I just freaking loved the like community and getting to look at all of the to see all of the interviews that were done with, or I don't know if they were interviews, but like the opportunity where you got to see some of the designers like talk and interact, and yeah, just kind of putting faces to patterns that I've seen. I didn't really participate in the stitching tables or the round robin thing. What is that called? I can't remember what it's called. You guys, if you know or are aware of Spring Mingle, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm so excited to go back and experience it this time. Maybe I'll join a stitching table. I probably will not do the roulette thing. I don't know why I call it roulette. I don't know. Anyway, it's a new start. Why did I start talking about this? Anyway, okay, now I remember why I started talking about this. So it's a new start that I have because I purchased the class, which I don't have it in this bag. I have to go grab it. Haha, I grabbed the wrong bag. That's why there's nothing in that other one. But this is in this beautiful project bag. I will put the link to it in the description because I can't off the top of my head remember who made this, but I think it's so beautiful. So back to Spring Mingle, I purchased the class for Do Dragons Fly, the little pin cushion, and the little, I did the class kit as well to make the little dragonfly that you put in your pin cushion. And I have started on all of the stitching that I need to get done ahead of the event, because I would love to spend that class time trying to finish this. Like, I know it's pretty aspirational to try to finish it within the class time, but if I could finish it over the weekend, I would really love that. And I mentioned earlier stitching for my mom. So yeah, this is another stitch for my mother, because dragonflies are really something that we see as a symbol of my dad and his passing, and it's very interesting that the day that he died, the day leading up to the day he died, several of our family members had interactions with dragonflies that, for whatever reason, we had never had interactions with them before. We kind of always see dragonflies as a reminder of dad. And so when I see dragonfly patterns, I get super excited. When I saw Kathy's hands-on design pin cushion with the dragonflies, I absolutely knew that I had to do it. And my mother, slowly over the years, has updated like her home decor, so it's a lot more feminine than it was when my dad was alive, and pink has made its way into most of her rooms. And so seeing that it was a cute little pink pin cushion with dragonflies on it, I had to do it. So I started my stitching and I love how it's coming together. Let me consult my planner on the specifics. So this is 16 count, Picture This Plus Cherub is the color, and it's a really light wash of pink. Pink was really important to me. I wanted to make sure to stitch it on pink. I know the model is stitched on pink, but it's pink linen, so I had to find something that would be somewhat close. And I put it in order at 123 Stitch, and loved this light pink option, and I just think that it works so great with the colors of the pattern, the colors that Kathy chose. So I'm using all the called for DMC. This is 16 count instead of my typical 18 count, just so that it's similar in size to the 36 count linen that she used in the model. And I'm a little less than halfway done. This one was hard. It went into Markup RX difficultly. It didn't go into it very easily, I should say. And it doesn't give very accurate number of stitches in there because the pattern had a lot of overlap, like way more overlap than a typical pattern. I think a typical pattern will have, I don't know, 1 to 5 rows, and this pattern had like 17 rows of overlap, so the Markup RX doesn't know how to handle that, so it added a bunch of stitching that is duplicate stitching from one page to the next. Anyway, I don't know exactly how far I am in this, even though I am using Markup RXP for it, but yeah, this is Do Dragons Fly, and I'm pretty sure that I'll have this done before class because I still have like a week and a half to finish it, and it's a fun little stitch. I stayed up late, way too late, watching Netflix and stitching this the other night, and it was just a fun little stitch. Oh, and I also purchased, like I said, the class kit for this from Lindy Stitches. It looks like you get some interface. I can't tell if this is interface, like that you would iron on the back of the cross stitch, or if it's felt. I don't know. I am no expert at these things. This is why I'm taking classes. That's the white bit, and then you get the little, I opted for the yellow dragonfly because yellow is my favorite color. And then she gave you, I guess, a couple different options to put in the center of the pin cushion. And then there's a little die cut felt flower, and then the pin, and a piece of wire, which I think will be used to thread the little felt balls on it. But I thought I would show you, this is the kit that came with it. Not came with it, that you had to purchase separately, but the kit that you could get to utilize for the class. And then also, just because they're so beautiful, here are the colors of the called for floss. I just really love them. It's a really easy color palette to work with. Like, you don't even have to consult the pattern to know what color you need to use next. So it makes it very simple that way. Okay, so that was Do Dragons Fly, which was a new start for April. And then the second new start for April that I have is a pattern from the Artsy Housewife. So I went on a deep dive into the Artsy Housewife, and I'm so obsessed and so in love with all of these patterns. I joined Gigi and Boone's Patreon, and I got access to the April patterns, which are beautiful and fun, and I've already kitted, I think I've kitted up at least one pattern that I'm going to start shortly, and I'll talk about that in my plans. But I also got access to the special shop that they have that is just for Patreon members, to access like the older Patreon patterns that have not yet made their way into the Artsy Housewives shop just yet. I don't know how long. I don't know if these always stay in like a separate shop, or if there's someday a plan to integrate them into the main shop. They might be like exclusive to the Patreon for a number of months or years, or I'm not exactly sure how it works. But I went digging through there once I learned I had access to it, and I want to stitch so many of them, but I had to play it freaking cool and not go crazy, and so I only ended up getting 3 patterns to start with, and I am so in love with all of Gigi's patterns. Like, you can tell she comes from like a fine art background just by the quality of her patterns. They're so beautiful. I love her borders. Like, I think that's something that she's probably known for, right? Like, she makes these beautiful, gorgeous borders. Anyway, long story short, this is another new start, and I decided to start initially with Warm Waters, which is this quirky, adorable octopus pattern, and it's underwater, and then it also has a butterfly in it under the water, and it's a split butterfly, and the quirkiness of that just really got me. I freaking loved it. And so I was kitting a bunch of things up, and I was trying to decide amongst the various Artsy Housewife patterns that I now have available to me. One from the Patreon and 2 that I purchased. And, well, obviously I purchased the Patreon as well. But I was like, well, let me start with something smaller so that I can like get going on it, and I just could not. I like had to stitch the octopus. So I have started, this is my start, and I started at the top left corner with the border, and look at this beautiful freaking flower. It's so pretty. I don't know, do you do this? This is a total aside. Do you see a pattern and like remember what you were watching when you stitch this? Because like I pick this up and immediately I think of like the new Burbs, The Burbs show with Keke Palmer. I love Keke Palmer. And yay for shows with female persons of color leads. I just loved it. And my husband is such a huge fan of the original Burbs with Tom Hanks. Like he can quote the movie all the way through. He knows like every scene. And so I've been asking him like, was this in the original movie? Was that? And yes, he can tell you. And I'm like asking him, I was like, wasn't the house like down the street? Wasn't it? I don't remember it being across the street. And he was like, no, it was not across the street, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but so he was somewhat reluctant to start the show, but I'm like, we have to support Keke. We have to support POC-led entertainment. And so we started watching it, and it's a little bit like the original, but it's totally new and different, and I am loving it, having so much fun. So when I look at this, I think of Keke Palmer and the Burbs. Total aside, sorry about that. But anyway, I am stitching this on one of this year's Under the Sea Fabrics Fabric of the Month. And I'm going to do a bit of a haul here at the end to show you some of the new things I got, but I thought I would feature some of the fabric that I've gotten this year because that tends to be something I'm always getting, right? So every month I get a new piece of fabric. This one is called, and I have to look at the tag, Rhea or Rhea? R-H-E-A. Maybe Rhea. Although this is one of my friend's last name, and that's not how she says it. Leah Ray. She says Ray. R-H-E-A. So I don't know if this is Ray or Rhea or what. But it was the March fabric of the month for this year. It's 18 count, opalescent, and the pattern is charted with like a light mint background. I did not have a light mint in my stash. So I knew that I had this beautiful like kind of turquoisey green pattern fabric, and I was like, done. I'm gonna get all the called for DMC and I'm gonna start it, and if something doesn't work with the background fabric, then I will figure it out as I go and potentially like switch things out. But so far, just in this little corner, which I think has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the flosses in it. So far, so good. I think it looks really great on this color. It is a little bit more saturated and darker than the chart, but I'm loving it. And I think one thing I do like about so far that I've noticed about Gigi's patterns is that she doesn't go crazy with the number of flosses. So I think this big pattern, this larger pattern, only had like 14 colors, which I completely appreciate. And there's one color, like I said, that I think might not work as well on this, but we will see. It may be fully contained within other stitching, so it might not matter. But I want to see, I'm excited to see where this goes, and I really, 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 really love it so far, and I'm excited to continue working on it. And this is the third project that I'm going to be working on for Whip Drag Race, which again I will talk a little bit more about. Okay, so now to talk a little bit about my plans, my upcoming plans for the month of May, and then also just a little bit into summer planning for basically June. Because I think what I plan to do is do Christmas in July, since I really only stitch on Christmas projects in the month of December, and I would like to have a second month to go back to those projects and put a little bit more work on them. So for me, for my stitching, for my seasonal stitching schedule, really May and June are the only 2 summer months that I plan to focus on the summer. I will let you know that summer is my least favorite holiday. That has to do with the part of the world that I live in. I live in central Texas. It is incredibly hot here and it is very humid. It's not fun to be outside in the summertime. We have a handful of days, I mean, even that in the summertime. Honestly, the nicest weather you're gonna get, of course, is gonna be in the fall and somewhat in the spring. And we've been really blessed this year to have days where the temperature stays like below 80. Like below 80 is amazing weather here. Anyway, I'm just rambling, telling you a little bit more about me. Summer's not my favorite season, but it is a great time to be indoors and stitching because air conditioning. And so some of the plans that I have, one is to go to Spring Mingle, the online retreat that I talked about earlier that Lindy Stitches does. I plan to attend the hands-on design do dragons fly class. I'm super excited about that. And then also just to participate, do some stitching. I'm actually thinking for Spring Mingle this year that I have one project that I do want to work on starting at the Spring Mingle, which I'll show you in a second. But I also want to probably do a little bit of finishing those couple of days, that weekend, because I have some littles, right? Like I have these little merit badges and, oh, no, that's not a merit badge. It's a whole thing. And these little merit badges. And so I want to do like, I think it's whip stitching to kind of finish them and then to put them onto felt. But like, that's something that I could do easily during, you know, either one of the designer chats or, you know, anytime. It's like distracted stitching where I'm not having to consult back and forth at a pattern like you do when you're working on any kind of project. And so I feel like I could do double duty with these guys really well. I haven't done them. I haven't sat down and done any of them because it just takes time away from stitching. But if I'm enjoying like being at a stitching table or enjoying hearing a designer talk about their process, or a manufacturer dyer talking about their process, I can be more attentive to that versus trying to juggle following a pattern in completely like working through the pattern and then listening at the same time. So that's just my thought process. I would really love to fully finish these 2 guys at Spring Mingle, but we'll see. Maybe I'll have different ideas about that. So I would love to get 2 of those little FFOs done. And then the other project that I want to work on or get started during Spring Mingle is this adorable Frida Kahlo art diorama. So look how cute this is, y'all. Can you see how adorable it is? There's a little Frida and like a Mexican city landscape inside of a tin. It kills me. It's so cute. It's from Susan Penny Design Studio. Susan Penny is out of the UK, so I had to purchase this pattern, or I purchased the kit without the floss. So it came from the UK. I actually paid more for shipping than I did for the actual kit, but that's okay because I wanted it so badly. I love Frida Kahlo. I admire her so much, and I just love that she was truly an original human being in a time when that was not celebrated. And I have so much admiration and respect for her, and I love all things Frida Kahlo. And so yes, I had to have this. I absolutely had to have it. Okay, so I purchased the kit. The kit came with the It came with the chart and then also like some finishing instructions, and then it came with the little tin, which is bigger, like this is bigger than like an Altoid tin. If you know Altoids, if you're in the United States and you know Altoids, it's a little bit bigger than that. And then it came with its own little needle and a piece of felt, which I'm guessing is like the bottom of the little stand-up frida that you can see here. And then it came with this card for you to put your floss on. And it came with some 14 count white Aida. So it just needed the floss. There was an option to purchase the floss, but I just felt like it was really pricey, and since I was going to be paying so much for shipping, I could get my floss here and not have to have it sent to me from the UK. But I will say this tiny little pattern, this little stand-up figure, whoops-a-daisy, has so many flosses. I was just talking about how I love that Gigi from the Artsy Housewife doesn't use a ton of flosses in her projects, and how appreciative I was of this. But this little man has a little girl, this little person, human, has a ton of different colors. Plus these two I had in stash that I had already bobbinated. And then also, this is the first time I've ever seen a pattern call for it, but this DMC Diamante is part of it too. But yeah, this just seems like a lot of different colors for one small pattern. I mean, yes, it is one pattern, but it's also like one little scene stretched across two, and then her standing up. But I am excited to stitch it. I love how colorful it is. I'm excited to make my first little stand-up person. I've never done that before. So that is another plan that I have to do during Spring Mingle. So this guy and fully finishing two of my patches, if I were to get that and then participate in the class, if I were to get that done, like, and not this done obviously, but just like started and worked on during that weekend, I will be so pleased. So pleased. So another plan that I have for this summertime is to finally get started on the closely kept cell that at least I know Eli from Thick Threads is doing. I know many people are doing that, but I heard about it specifically from Eli, and that is to stitch one of Shaded Stitchery's closely kept motifs, and I think there's 5 to choose from. So I purchased closely kept number 1. And I was really inspired by what inspired Neri to begin with, which were these daguerreotypes that I believe are in the National Museum for Black Culture in DC. I'm totally getting the name of that museum wrong, I apologize. But I loved the floral, and it's one tone, one color, on beautiful fabric, and it's in the daguerreotypes. The original daguerreotypes are in these like wooden boxes where you open it up, and like the photo images on one side and like a fabric pieces on the other side. They're like hinged together. I just thought that was so beautiful, and I want to try to do something similar. But obviously, step 1, I need to stitch the pattern, and so I knew that I wanted to do like a special photo, not just like an everyday photo, which now looking back, it wouldn't matter what photo it was. But I did think that, okay, my anniversary is coming up. My husband and I will have been married for 8 years. It would be fun to, and we don't have many of our wedding photos like around. We do have like a photo wall. We have 9 photos from our wedding in our bedroom, but they're nowhere else in the house, so like guests really don't get to see them. So I thought, okay, maybe I can put this together so it can sit on our bookshelf that goes like, or it'll be in the living room or the dining room or the library. So I really want to stitch that to get that whole project going. And I will put a picture here from our wedding day. I did not wear a white dress. Instead, as you can guess it, I opted for color because I have talked about being such a fan of color, being super inspired by color. So of course I went for the colorful outfit, the colorful dress for my wedding day. And I wanted to pick one color from that dress to use as a background fabric. And Under the Sea Fabrics, like I mentioned, is my LNS. So I put in an order for 2 different kind of pink fabrics. Let me get the board so they don't flop around. Because I wasn't sure, you know, based on the photos, like which one might work better. And these were the 2 that I had purchased and had Leslie's dye. So this one on the right side of your screen is Mushu, and then this one on the left side of your screen is Fortuna, and I love them both. This one is a little bit more corally, this one is a little bit more pink. So I'm leaning toward the pink one at the moment, cause honestly I haven't looked at those, even though they're on my wall. I haven't closely paid attention to my photos or my wedding dress, and I can't remember a real, like, I think that the pinker one is gonna go better next to a photo of that, me in that dress. I think so. I think that I'm gonna go for Fortuna, but we'll see. But yeah, this is like part plan, part haul. I definitely wanted to show you these 2 beautiful colors that Leslie has in her catalog of colors. And it was one of those things where it's like she had a custom dye these for me. They are both 16 count. Yeah, 16 count, because the pattern, because I wanted to do like a 4x6 picture, because I have the idea to kind of try to mimic the daguerreotype image, or the daguerreotype photo that Nuri used as her inspiration initially. I was able to find little 4x6 trays that I think I could commandeer into that same format. So 16 count was going to make more sense and be a little bit better. And as I'm saying that, I'm also thinking I should share randomly, so you guys get to know me a little bit better, that once upon a time in college I was a photography major, and then I switched to business. But I probably should have minored in photography. I was probably like only 1 or 2 credits away from being a photography minor. And so I finally remember the days of photo history and learning all about daguerreotypes. And then also, I don't know if it's part of the permanent collection or not. I went to school in Austin at St. Edward's University, but obviously Austin is known for being the home of the University of Texas. And in one of their archives, in one of their museums, they had one of the very first photographs ever. That was from Nice 4 Nieps, and it was printed on glass, and part of our assignment in that semester was to go see it in person, which was amazing. I don't know if it's still there. I don't know if that's part of the permanent collection like I mentioned, but yeah, just a bit of like I have such a random, diverse, all over the place background, guys, so if you have any questions, please ask. But yeah, just saying the word daguerreotype so many times makes me remember those days, and with fondness. Also, I am old enough to where when I was a photography minor major, we worked in the darkroom, and digital photography was a thing, but not as popular. as far as other plans, I have 2 other new starts that I want to get started in the summer months. Both of them are from the Artsy Housewife, because like I said, I did a deep dive. I'm obsessed, y'all, and I want to start all of the things. The first one being coffee and eggs. That's what got me started on this path, on this journey with Gigi and the Artsy Housewife. And I love this pattern. I have in my stash, I think I mentioned earlier, persimmon from Fiber on a Whim, and I think I'm going to utilize that fabric for the pattern. It's a little bit more orange, it's orange, than tan, but I might try to, I don't know, dye, tea dye, something to maybe soften that orange so it's a little bit more tan. I might, or I might just kit up all of the floss and see if I think anything will conflict with the chosen fabric, and if it doesn't, I might just stitch it straight as is on that persimmon fabric. And then the other project that I want to get started is Ferdinand. It was part of the April Patreon and I loved him so much. I wanted to get started on him quickly, but I don't have any yellowy fabric. I don't have yellow in my stash of fabric, so I put in an order via 123 Stitch to get a couple of options to choose from, and I can show those to you now. I mean, 2 of these are yellow, and then one of them is like a kind of greeny color, but I need a second clip. But these are the 3 that I got from 123 Stitch. And then this is called Parfait. Yeah, Parfait. It's an 18 count. This is called Kermit. That's also an 18 count. And then this one is called Gossamer. And it's like a light yellow with splotches of green on it. And so I'm going to pick between these to stitch Ferdinand on. I have all of the flosses, so those are ready to go. And there's not a lot of colors in these patterns. So yeah, I am excited to get started and just pick one of these for Ferdinand, and that'll be another new start for the summer. And then I think that's going to be it in terms of summer starts, because like I said, I only really stitch summer things in May and June, but I'm really excited to start Ferdinand. So then that'll be 3 in process, 3 the Artsy Housewife patterns in process, warm waters, coffee and eggs, and then the sweet little Ferdinand. I also have another leto.x pattern that I have charted and need to model stitch, and I'm going to, this is also kind of part haul, to show you 2 fabrics from Under the Sea Fabrics. These are both from the Fabric of the Month Club for this year. And they're somewhat similar, but they are different. They're not exactly the same. So the January fabric is called Amethyst. And this is it. I got the opalescent version, and it is like a purpley color, and it has big mottled swatches of yellow. I put this on my Instagram because I was trying to figure out which would be the better option to see. It's like, I may have fixed this in post, but this is Amethyst, and one of the options I'm trying to decide between for this new pattern of mine that I've designed. And then the other one is was the February fabric of the month, and it's called Hesperia, and these are both 18 count Aida opalescent. And then this one is purple, but it has like kind of big swaths of like the purple and blue in here as well. So these are the two, these are, like I said, this is part haul, part plans. I'm going to utilize one of these two to stitch up my new leto.x pattern that I'm super excited about. And we will see which one I end up choosing for that. But that is another plan that I have for the months, for the summer months. But that's like the last of the plans that I have for the summer months, except for the thing that I keep alluding to, I talked about earlier in the video, is I do want to participate in Whip Drag Race, which is a challenge based off of watching the Drag Race franchise. And then over the summer, Drag Race All-Stars will be on, and they do, if you're familiar at all with Drag Race, it's a competition series, and it's like individual competitors are trying to become the next drag superstar. That's how a typical season goes. All-Stars, they've started doing things a little bit differently in a different format because it's returning queens, people that we've already seen on the show before, and they put them into various brackets, and then they compete inside those brackets. So there's 3 different brackets. They have the purple bracket, the pink bracket, and the orange bracket, and they have queens assigned to each bracket. And then they do various challenges, and it's all based on points, and you try as an individual player to get as many points as you can, because only so many queens from each bracket get advanced further into the competition. So I participated in Whip Drag Race. I tried to participate. I did participate in Whip Drag Race at the beginning of the year during the regular season, and I assigned a whip to each queen, which I think at that point, I was like a week or 2 late, but at that point, there were 13 queens left in the competition. So I assigned each queen a separate project, and some of them were actual whips and some of them were new starts, and actually a lot of them were new starts, and I was okay with starting like 2 or 3, but after that I was like, no more new starts. I like just want to keep working on and working towards finishing some of the whips that I already had going in process. I don't like having too many whips because I do want to make significant progress on each of my projects. Although I can totally understand why people have lots of whips, because then it's like either I get it started now or I get it started never. So I'm not judging anyone who has a bunch of whips. I just right now have not as many whips, and I'd like to kind of keep it that way. And so going back to Whip Drag Race, what I'm planning to do is only have 3 whips. And just depending on which bracket is on the TV that week, I will stitch the project that I've assigned to each bracket, and then once the queens advance and they're all mixed up together, depending on which bracket the winning queen comes from, I will stitch that project. I will probably explain this better written. I'm much better in written communication than verbal communication. If you want to check out my Instagram, that's probably the best place to like find out more, because I did post a couple times about Whip Drag Race from the main season, and I made a little graphic and I kind of showed the progress for each of the whips that I had based on who won the challenge each week. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. leto.x.crossstitch on Instagram, just to see a little bit more. But yeah, I'm excited because then that means I have 3 projects that I'm going to be focusing on a little bit more often than otherwise. So I'm going to, the 3 projects that I've selected to work on to get more progress into are London Muss, the Moonlight Sampler, and Strawberry Mountain. So I'm excited to put more stitching into all 3 of those projects, because I really love all 3 of those projects, and just really be able to focus more on them. Okay, and last but not least is haul, which from what I understand watching Eli's videos, Thick Threads videos, haul is maybe not for everyone. So if you would like to tune out now, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. But if you're interested in watching the haul portion of this video, please stick around. I do not have a lot of haul to share. I just thought I would show the 3 little pieces that I have and we will then be on our way. But the first bit of haul that I have is this adorable cat paw brush that I got from Lindy Stitches. I love that Lindy Stitches is always looking for new and fun things to add to their shop. And this one, Steph shared this on her Instagram, I think, and I was like, what do you use this for? I don't actually know what you use it for, but I want it. And so then Steph was like, oh, it's really good to like dust off your projects, to kind of get little hairs and things off of your projects. And then there was another thing she said that I can't remember off the top of my head, but this is now part of my toolbox, and I have yet to use it because it's been sitting on my desk, but I need to go put it with the rest of my tools that I use on a more regular basis. So that was a bit of haul from Lindy Stitches. And then I randomly was searching online for who knows what. I don't know what I was looking at, but I came across Farm Girl Dry Goods, I think is the name of the shop, and they have tons and tons of patterns. They have available many older patterns that I had never seen before because I am such a new stitcher. So not kidding, over a couple of days I like scrolled every single page of their patterns just to see like some of the older Teresa Kogut that I had never seen before, and older Tiny Modernist, stuff that isn't like as available anymore because it's several years old. So I got to see like some early stuff, and I just, not early, but like obviously younger than things that are being put out now. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I went through and I looked at tons and tons of patterns just to kind of see the vibes of the industry, and you know, I'm still in the learning phase of this cross stitch journey, and I always love kind of adding to my knowledge and seeing what some of the older things look like, and if there was any older trends that I noticed. Not necessarily, but I just really loved seeing some of the older stuff from the designers that I know really well now, and or I know more of now, to see some of the earlier work. Like that was really cool. And then like even just Kathy from Hands On Design, just seeing how the images of her projects have evolved over the years, like how she graphic designs them. I think a cat just opened the door, so that's why. Anyway, so Farm Girl Dry Goods. I got 2 patterns, and one is from Nashville. It's a Nashville release. It is from the designer called Cherry Blossoms, and this is the Beautiful Things pattern that they put out because, hello, dragonflies. I've already talked about how that is something that reminds us of my dad, and I think this one would be more for me than my mom. But I just thought it was such a cute pattern, and it had so many fun things in addition to the dragonflies, such as the bunny, because like I also said, bunnies are a big thing in my family, and then it has a stitching aspect to it as well. Just so fun. I think that Cherry Blossoms is a somewhat newer cross stitch patterner, because it didn't seem, I saw this in like at least one Nashville roundup video of people like loving this pattern, and it didn't seem like they had been around for very long. So this is one piece of Nashville haul. I did not order a lot of stuff from Nashville, guys. I am very picky. I'm very picky about my stuff, and I have very specific styles that I like and things that in mind, and if I can appreciate so many patterns. I think so many patterns are beautiful, but when it comes to actually putting my time into them, I have to be really picky about what it is that I'm going to spend hours and hours working on. And so as I'm looking at anything new, such as like the variety of patterns that come out of Nashville or the needlework marketplace that's going to come up in the summertime, I am judging all of those patterns I'm judging all those patterns against all the patterns that I already have, that I already own and have, and absolutely know that I want to stitch. So if something is pretty cute, it has to be way cuter than something I already own or something I already know I want to buy, for me to buy it. So I have not seen anything like this. This was, it felt a little bit more unique just because of the variety of different motifs and the content, and then also dragonflies, that I decided to order this. So from Nashville, I have this pattern. I have one of the Under the Sea patterns. I loved the ink circles pattern. I got it digitally. It was the Gone Fishing one with the cat with the little astronaut, the little scuba hat on. I don't know. It was adorable. I had to have it. I also got the Cottage Garden Stitching flosses because they're so freaking beautiful. But I loved a lot of the patterns that were released, but I just didn't feel the need, or I didn't feel that I personally needed to stitch them. Other than that one, because it made me laugh that it was a cat underwater with a scuba helmet or whatever. But I absolutely loved the Cottage Garden sampling floss, which if you watch any Flosstube, you've probably already seen before. So, and then I get to do whatever I want with these, because I really only have that one pattern that's specifically for them. And then also from Farm Girl Dry Goods, I got this pattern from Needlework Press. It's called Felicidades en Recuerdos, which it's in Spanish, which speaks to my heart. I personally I don't speak fluent Spanish, which may surprise you or may surprise people. I had the whole conversation about this with someone in the publishing industry a few weeks ago, which was really interesting. This person represents Sandra Cisneros and Julia Alvarez. So it was very interesting to have this conversation with them. But it really depends on if Spanish is spoken in the home as to whether or not you are fluent, I think is part of it, or if you were in some sort of school situation that did dual language. But Spanish was not spoken at home when I was growing up. The only time my parents spoke Spanish was when they did not want little ears to hear. And my parents were both raised differently. So my dad, his first language was Spanish, and at home they spoke Spanish pretty much exclusively. And then when he went to school, he became bilingual. My grandparents both speak English too, so they were pretty bilingual and back and forth into both languages when he was growing up. My mom, they only spoke English at home. They didn't speak Spanish. Or sometimes Spanish would be spoken to them, but they would respond in English. So it's just a matter of how often it was spoken when you were a kiddo, and how intensive your Spanish language courses were, I suppose. Honestly, I know a lot of words, but stringing them together is somewhat difficult for me. I have trouble auditorily anyway, so if you were to rattle off your telephone number to me, it would take my brain in English. If you were to rattle off your telephone number to me, it would take my brain way too long to interpret that. Again, auditory is not my strong suit. Isn't my strong suit. So adding languages or things that aren't in English on top of that, it makes it difficult. Anyway, I say all this to say, I love anything that comes, like, that becomes evident that it's like Spanish or Mexican, even Central South American, although I haven't come across that as much. But if you're aware of any like Central South American designers, I would love any recommendations, because I love to support any Latina people, any Latina designers, any Latina business owners. I love it. But anyway, so I went and I saw this on that website, and I got it, and I love it. I just think it's so cool to have something that isn't necessarily like US based or Dutch based or English based, which we see a lot of, but be something maybe a little bit closer to my heritage and my home. So I was super excited to see this. I became aware of another Needlework Press piece called the Mexican Sampler, which I need to call an LNS in Illinois to like get more information about, because I saw a little snippet of it, and I haven't seen like the whole image of it, but like they're doing a sale at the moment, and I'm very interested in getting, I think they only have kits available, getting the kit to work on that as well. But it's a big influence for me, my culture, and I have only been to Mexico once in my life. And that was only recently because my cousin got married there. And even though it's not very far away from Texas, we don't have family left there that we know of. So there's really never been an excuse or a need to go. Also, I know I live in Texas, and there's borders that we can cross here, but border towns aren't necessarily the safest places to visit in Mexico. So I always have had a somewhat healthy fear of just crossing the border. But I just am feeling the need and the call to get to Mexico more, especially having just visited for the first time. I went to Asia, I went to Europe, I went to Africa before I went to Mexico, which I know is really crazy. But I am excited to learn a little bit more about Spanish embroidery. I have a book that I've pre-ordered. It's like the embroidery of Mexico. I will make sure to send like a pre-order link to you, or not to send, to put it in the description notes if you're interested. I'm so excited for this book to arrive. It's very close to publication, but we're not there yet. And I kind of just want to use it as a guidebook to go find out more about stitching in Mexico. I know I'm not the first. I know that there's other people out there who have done some like exploration into it, but I would love to just learn a little bit more, and then potentially be able to incorporate some of those influences into my own patterns in the future. So this has been a very long Flosstube, but I appreciate you if you've stuck around this long to hear my ramblings, learn a little bit about me, see what I'm stitching, see what my plans are. I just really appreciate you doing so. If you've made it this far, I'd love if you could leave me a comment to let me know. Maybe put in there a I don't know, let's do a sun in your comment so I know that you made it all the way to the end. I look forward to interacting with you in the comments. I look forward to watching your Flosstubes if you have them. Please let me know. I love to follow people and like kind of learn and feel like I know them a little bit. So if you have your own Flosstube channel, please leave me a comment and let me know how to access them. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I just really appreciate you spending this time with me.